Getting all in tune and stuff. Yeah. Oh, that did start off. First thing I saw in the video of me just getting in tune, you know? How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dustin Cormier. You are watching another episode of How to Rock Spirit. Thank you so much for coming. If you're watching live, I do like to do these as a live stream. And I always like to say that anybody who's watching on my channel or watching on YouTube after the fact, feel free to be a part of these sessions when we do them. What I like to do is I like to have, hi Goosey, nice to see you, my friend. I like to have all of my people to be a part of this live stream and to make any comments, questions, anything that you like. Because spirit is so much more than any one spirit, than any one single point. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Taurus Sun coming through the year of the horse. First thing I usually like to do, I'll talk a little bit about the nature in my mind of the signs that we're dealing with here. And then at the very end, we're going to read from various different sources regarding the nature of Taurus Sun coming through the year of the horse, or the sign of the horse. What I've been trying to make a habit of is, before we start to get into it, I'm going to read a little gumball. Just a little, little. This is a little excerpt that comes from the Little Giant Encyclopedia, the Zodiac, the diagram group. This is going to be a little taste tester describing the essence and nature of the Taurus horse. And then I'm going to rap a little bit about my excursion on that. This book's cool because it gives us a little taste test of the nature and essence of the character that we're going to be reading about today. Taurus horse. The pragmatic Taurus allows the horse to plan ahead. These horses are less temperamental and more stable, but they can be too rigid. Taurus horses are not averse to taking advice from others. The Taurus in this person is kind of a bit chummy, and will kind of, discuss and let other people talk about them, and then they go, okay, I see your point on me. I mean, and then they'll kind of, this is coming from your mind, which is a person who's capable in this field, and I'm capable in this field. It's the Venus is reading the personality of the two and hashing about it. Because the horse just loves to hash things, and just talk and cut up ideas from the other person and themselves and bring it to some kind of singular thought. Cool. So these people are less temperamental. They can plan ahead. They're more stable. Although they can be too rigid. That's interesting to me. Although I guess I can see it. This rigidness comes from the fact probably that the horse lives by its heart. Horse is it's a bit of a warrior type of sign. It's in the protector harmony triad. It's in the fire triad. So it lives for its heart, and it's already a fire sign. Which means that it tends to live for... I'm trying to figure out my friggin' jewelry here. The horse tends to live for... Well, fire in Chinese astrology relates with the heart region. It likes to have a constant pumping, the pumping of the heart. Which means it likes to try out different things and try out different adventures, different ways of talking with people, different ways of hacking it, whatever it's trying to do. And just try out all the different ways of doing it. And that gives the heart a sense that it's constantly trying different things and jumping. And so it lives for the heart, meaning the heart's when you get into the Western metaphysic of the heart, it breaks down into a whole bunch of different things. The Chinese astrology expression of the heart is like as a biological valve which pumps blood. So these people live for that which gets their blood pumping. And they love those kinds of things, that kind of excitement. These people can be very romantic, hugely romantic, very fixed on their lover in the same way that kind of like a Scorpio can. I mean, Taurus is kind of like that anyway. Different but similar, if you know what I mean. The opposite there. Opposites are the same but different in different directions. The horse has a romantic streak that I'm sure we're going to read about, because the horse is in the summer period. They say in the Chinese that from ages 0 to 12, a person embodies spring nature. It's the spring of life. Then from 12 to 24 is the fire, the summer of life. The hormonal, teenage, angsty, figuring out what your life is all about kind of like time. And then from 24 to 26 is like Indian summer. It's like the earth sign. From 36 to 48 is like metal, and that's like autumn, cultivating. Earth sort of like, okay, so think of it of a flower. So in the spring, the flowers are just starting to bloom, but they're not in full bloom yet. It's in the summer that the flower fully opens up itself up, and it's sexual, and it's the flower's genitalia is its like pollen and its nectar that it gives to other animals, so that other animals can take that sexy, juicy seed and go and bring it out to other places so that they can continue the growth of the flower. That's how flowers, what's the word? That's how flowers fuck, basically, is that they get other animals to do it for them. But the point is that their genitals and their hormones and their giving of their seed comes at the summertime. And then it's in the Indian summer, it's in the earth phase, metaphorically from age 24 to 36, where the person's starting to figure themselves out, and now the fruit is coming. This is when the fruit is fully ripening. At the end of summer is when the earth phase comes in. And then in autumn, from 36 to 48 years old, is when we take most of the work that we did in that period and start to build a family with it, start to think of where it's going to go for the future. So this fire period from 12 to 24, which is hormonal and sexy and full of romantic wanderings and yearnings, this is all very much horse territory. Now, Taurus kind of has a similar vibe, although Taurus is a spring vibe more than anything, obviously. Taurus brings springness to this whole thing. So the spring in this person is initiative. They've got initiative. They like to build things from scratch and from the start. They like to bring people together, to gather people together for their resources, which will last them and their group of people for a long time. These people are very like ardent lovers for sure, and they probably really want to stick on one person, show their love and express their love to one person, so that they can take that feeling of love and that feeling of juiciness that they get from that one relationship and bring it out and pour it out into other parts of their lives. We've been talking this whole time about, I've got another video, if you want to read it, check it out before or after or whatever this one. We did it just before this video. It was describing the nature of the horse coming through water Pancha-Tattva ruled sun signs. That's Cancer, Taurus, and Libra. And that video is really taking this seed of this video and expanding on it. But essentially, I'm getting at the fact that the sun being in Taurus means that Venus plays a deep part of this person's personality. So wherever Venus is in your Western chart is going to show its dignity, its strength by sign and by house, is going to show the capability that the Taurus person has to use the open door of the sun to best effect. When someone has the sun in Taurus, the sun does okay in Taurus. It's pretty good because it's close to Aries. Aries is where the sun is exalted, which means that the closer the sun is to Aries, the more naturally it can express itself. The sun expresses itself better in the spring signs, like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and it does well in those signs. I mean, I'd say Pisces, Aries, Taurus, the sun does well, being closer to Aries. Although in Taurus, the sun is not good friends with Venus. When the sun is coming through Taurus, the sun is not really thinking about itself per se, but it's not thinking about its essential nature like it should. What it's really thinking of is its energy field and the particular points in its energy field which have the capacity to deal great economical uses of its action. The sun in Taurus is an ergonomic-centered sort of person, being sensitive to how they can use this person to the best effect of the company because of the way this person is, or executing a command to this person because they have the skills in this way to deal with things. Essentially, because the sun is in Taurus and it's thinking about the energy field, it's not thinking about its own spiritual desire. And that's why that goes to say that the sun is not good friends with Venus. But it's the placement of Venus in the chart by house and by sign that's really going to show the strength of this person. If the person has a strong Venus, if the Venus is closer to Pisces, farther away from Virgo, if the person is, their Venus is closer to the 4th house cusp rather than the 10th house cusp, these are good places for Venus. So the strength of the Venus shows whether the Taurus person, the Taurus Sun person, can deal with other people and adapt itself to other people. Because the Taurus Sun often is looking very intently at the mirror of Venus, trying to figure out what its needs are, its emotional needs are. Venus is itself the water Pancha-Tattva ruler. It's the insulator. It insulates us from falls. It insulates us from when we smash our head against reality, trying to break through it and manipulate reality. Sometimes it's hard. It's tough to. The Taurus person, the reason why Taurus is a bull is because the sun is coming through the passive expression of Venus, which means that it's Venus aimed at itself. Venus is a planet of comfort, of this romantic energy, of kind of self-interest, although ultimately in its highest expression, it doesn't use it for itself. It uses its sense of what comfort is to help other people or to serve other people. Venus is great at that. So when the sun is in Taurus, this person looks at the mirror and sees what they need in order to make themselves feel comfortable, what resources they need to make their journey easier. And that's why Taurus is called the bull. I mean, they can be bullheaded and stubborn, of course, because a bull is stubborn, but it plods patiently, carefully, and plans. The sun coming through Taurus is a huge planner, and they plod forward in their own patient, in their own self-gathering way, and that's what Venus is all about, is that it can go for a very long time. It can endure in anything. This Taurus bull person can hold a roll down, a slot, a social slot, can hold it down forever. It's the Venus in this person which will really make them capable. If they have a strong Venus, if their Venus is like conjunct Jupiter, or if it's in like a good it's in the sign of a friend, or if Saturn is if Saturn is in Libra in the chart, that will also help the Venus because Saturn is exalted in Libra. It will solidify the sense of Libra. So, you got to look at other factors in the chart. But essentially, if you have a strong Venus, that means that the Taurus in this person will not be too bullheaded. It will not be selfish. It will listen to others, and it will do very good at whatever its job is, which is usually acting as some kind of communicator, the Taurus, or some kind of analyst, some planner. The Taurus will read, like as the banker, the Taurus will read the other person's wants and desires in nature, and if they have a good Venus, they'll actually listen to the other person and cater to their needs, and not just, well, this is my skill as a banker. I'm good at doing this thing, and this is what I think you should do, without like actually listening to the person's thoughts of where they should go, So the health of Venus and the strength of Venus will show how much of the Sun can be expressed through the potentials of the Taurus Sun. And it will also show whether they can really endure the way that they want to as a Taurus. The Venus shows if you can really keep enduring, if you can be guided by your internal sense of what is best for your greater interests. That's what Venus is like for. It's the positive, like the earthly guru, the guru of what makes you exist and sustain yourself on Earth. So you can be guided towards your ultimate sense of what you want to do if you have a strong Venus, and that will be important for the Taurus Sun person. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Coming through the horse, this might be a person who's very good at being a homey character who you can kind of feel is going to be very honest about whatever they think about anything. The horse heart-centeredness is going to be very brutal, sometimes brutally blunt about what they think that the group should do, or like how you're contributing to a group. The Taurus wants everyone to be ergonomic and to be fitted perfectly. So if there's any interpersonal social problems with the group, leave it to the Taurus Sun to, let them know about it, and they'll either tell you that they think you are being ridiculous right now. But if they think that the other person is being ridiculous and you're a little like shy or something like that, and you don't even know if you're correct, the Taurus will think of what's best for the group. The horse in this person will think about what's best for the intention and the organic, heartfelt feeling of everybody's best intentions. The Taurus will bring all those together, and in a bullheaded way, they'll go to the person who's making the problem, and they're a good boss in this way. They don't want to lose you, so they'll be professional. But the Taurus will say, look, the Taurus horse will communicate it to the person in a way that will make the person understand the position of the whole group, or the person that they're stepping on. And the Taurus Sun will hold it down and communicate to that person in a way that they need to hear what they need to hear. This is like Taurus Sun's like specialty. What is it that is at the root of the flower? Taurus, the root of the flower. What do I have to figure out at the root of the flower, which will bring us all a sense of the flower blooming? That's the horse, right? Taurus plans and figures out the root and the stem and the stalk of the flower. And what the Taurus is ultimately after, through the horse. The horse knows that eventually what we're all blooming towards. What is the intention of the group? That's something the horse always brings. The horse has been running around its whole life, dipping its toe into various pools. That's what the horse likes to do. And so the horse feels out many different life experiences, brings these to the group, and then it's the Taurus that says, now I know what we all have to do to be firmly rooted in order to bring about this flower that we all feel that we're going towards. And the Taurus horse will be interested in things which have that full summer bloom flower vibe, whether it's art, whether it's media, whether it's even like something just like a job, a trade, like construction or like plumbing. These people will cultivate in themselves what they need to continue on any journey, which involves horse-related things. So it's like being outside, being a tradesman, being skilled with their hands, being an artisan, craftsman of some sort. And the Taurus will also be good at establishing an enterprise and a business and a firmware for securely making this financially ready and financially stable. It's a pretty powerful combination, although we can see certainly that there would be a stubbornness, a sense of ego in this person, especially if they want to keep their slot or spot as the person who is doing this dialogue with the group. Someone comes along and says, I think we should root the flower this way. The Taurus can get upset and be like, no. I just figured this whole thing out. Towards the better directive of us, this is how we should root the thing. Although the Taurus can take advice. The Taurus horse can take advice better than most Tauruses. That's something the horse brings to the horse brings to the Taurus is that the horse doesn't necessarily take things too seriously. But there is an expansion of the fragility of the ego. Horse has a bit of a vulnerable ego. It loves the support of everybody else, and it loves its freedom. So when someone comes down on the horse, it feels like it's being denied the open field to run free with its heart and its thoughts. And that can be something that's very frustrating for the horse. I keep looking at my eye whenever I rub it, and it looks super weird. Looks like I've got a googly eye or something like that. I like to say that I'm not the year of the horse. I'm in the day of the horse. So the way that I relate with people really expresses the horse sort of vibe. Which is sort of like if I feel like saying something, wow, I'm going to say it. Hi, I'm this crazy, excitable guy. And as usual, here we go. Dominic Castile, how do you do, my good sir? Yeah, Taurus can be stubborn, you're right. I can't wait for spring and summer too. I'm a summer and spring guy myself. So as usual, this is a live stream. So anybody that feels like contributing to the conversation, please feel free. I'm going to try to start doing these maybe weekly or something. To go to prison or not. Yeah, we like freedom. I mean, it depends, really. They probably would not like prison. Any horse person wouldn't. In fact, any horse person would probably be very conscious of trying not to go to prison. But there also can be rule breakers, and they can fight for rights. They can fight for group rights, and so they can do things that will... They don't mind pressing... They'll really resist. These people resist bureaucracy. When everyone... They could have fucking 50 people in a room saying, especially the Taurus horse, can have 50 people in the room saying that it's the other way. The Taurus horse will be like, well, guess what? I'm glad you guys let me know the thing that I've got to now smash my head against. So it depends on the nature of the authority. If the authority is a loving, trusted person of the horse who's just telling the horse, Taurus, what they need to do in order to do better or to go farther in a given field, the horse sees that as a fucking open field that they can run through. But if the authority is just being a dick to the horse just to single them out, you're in the UK. Oh, bummer. I'm a Canadian and I fucking smoke weed like crazy, and I talk about it like crazy because, well, Canada's legalized it now. I sympathize with you, sir. I could see that being very frustrating. To be fair, my method, before it became legal in Canada, just recently, this last year, but for 5 fucking years, I've been smoking my head off and just not telling anybody about it. I'm the horse day, so I know it's good for me. So, fuck everyone else. Yeah, I know, I understand that. Yeah, that's okay. All right, well, I mean, I understand it. For me, I would say the horse welcomes taboo. The horse can see where something's taboo, but if it is privy to personal experiences which go against the public accord, horse might just go ahead and dabble in that thing anyway. Oops, my bad. But they can be a little bit silly with that. Like, you know, I'm very cautious with the drugs that I ingest. I like cannabis because it's so natural. I like mushrooms, ayahuasca, even LSD and peyote, because they're pretty naturally sourced, except for LSD. But LSD is still very not bad, not taxing on the system. But the horse can be this kind of guy who's like, you know, like, no one's doing cocaine, huh? Well, I mean, there must be something special to it then. And then they try it, and they can go a little too crazy with those kinds of things. For me, drugs should be done with the intention of a medicine that you need to help heal you and get you farther in this moment, or to even excite you and stimulate you, and that can be fun, but you can't let it that sensationalism overtake you, you know? Yeah, cool, man. Groovy, Jason. That's fucking rock and roll. You're metal horse, eh? So you're born 1990. That's awesome. I'm the year of the goat, 1991, so I tend to jive very well with people born in 1990. Now, feel free to keep making any comments you like, and I'll try to come back to you. But for the people watching the video today, I've talked a little bit about the nature of Taurus Horse informally. Now we're going to start reading from other various authors' takes on the character of the Taurus Horse. See how much my personal informal description lines up. This is just my style. I like to talk about different sources, different people's opinions and takes regarding the sign combination, just so we have like a text for me to bounce off of, essentially. Now, looking at a mirror image here, our first reading for today, our second reading, I guess technically, comes from the Handbook of Chinese Horoscopes by Theodora Lau and Laura Lau. As you can see, I've really worn this fucking old book out just because I've read it so much that I've lost the cover on it. This reading is talking about the Taurus Sun coming through the year of the horse. Here, the normal Taurus steadiness and love of regularity may be colored by the rainbow moods of the flamboyant horse. Still, both signs are conscientious in attending to their needs and never hindered by overdeveloped scruples or deep self-analysis. Yeah, the Taurus is kind of like down to earth, and you could think a million ways about like how your brain works, man, but ultimately you just gotta wake up and go to work and eat your food and do what you gotta do, man. That's like Taurus, you know? You can think a lot about it, but it's whatever gets you up in the morning is what's most important. A person born with this combination will feel very secure and be able to pursue his interests with quiet determination. It's very much the Taurus horse. The horse goes its own way, lives by its own heart, and the Taurus feels a beautiful bird, doesn't need to boast about it. So the Taurus will just like know its own way. This is kind of like a skipping bull to describe the Taurus horse. This person will be a quicker Taurian on one side or a slower horse on the other. But inevitably, this person will have a lively personality that will always be receptive to reason and a sound argument. Good combination. Not all of these readings line up to be that distinctly mostly positive. That to me looks like a positive reading. Someone who can be lighthearted with the horse, just sort of like whatever, laid back, living by the heart, and just sort of being real and down to earth. but also ready to stay put and patiently listen to sound reason and someone else's diatribes regarding the subject at hand. Because their interest is to make sure that their plans line up with everybody else's plans. They really can go and plod in their own direction quietly and sternly in their own regard, with no regard for anybody else if they feel like it. But ultimately, they will listen to everyone else's perspective and opinion on what it is that they're doing with their lives or whatever, what have you. Now, this next reading is going to flesh out everything that we've talked about. This next reading is by Cosmic Astrology by Mantak-Chia. Today we're for this we're talking about Taurus month combined with the year of the horse. The key word for Taurus is possess. The key word for the horse is command. For me, it kind of is saying that, like, the Taurus would like to gather, possess, to own something, whether it's like stocks or like, you know, a company or companies, various financial sorts of things. Hello? What?
Are you still?
Yep.
Okay.
I know I'm running a bit late. You gotta, what time do you gotta go to bed?
Well, I have to dry my clothes, my work clothes. How much longer do you need?
Probably like an hour and a half. Sorry about that, Mom. I'll try to wrap it up as quick as possible. Unfortunately, I share the basement where the washing machine is. So, I'll work that out with her. I'll have to find something to do there. Probably at the end of this video. Now, the keyword for Taurus is possess. The keyword for horse is command. What I see here is that the Taurus is trying to accumulate resources, to possess various businesses, or to start off a bunch of businesses, you know, and to possess resources, to possess lots of things. And then the horse here, even for the Taurus to possess other people's resources in a way, to gain the trust of others, to be a good banker or treasurer for a team or whatever. And the horse is good with commanding them, wants to take them and to have these various possessions or whatever and command them. Like it's the horse here that's good at seeing various people's ideas of something and commanding them towards some kind of objective and directive that's good for like everybody. Horse is good at commanding in a sense of what everyone's possessions are, you know, or not just everyone's possessions, but the group material resources. In this combination, there are no major issues until the age of puberty, when socialization sets in, bringing the influence of those from outside the home. It means peer pressure. People with gifts often tend not to fit in, of course, but that does not stop the Taurus horse from trying. Bringing the influence from those from outside the home with peer pressure. I see. So these people really develop like a homey sense of themselves. And then what they have to start doing is, once they've built a sense of how they themselves work in reality, once the reality outside them starts to come and set in, they've got to be like, oh, geez, now I got to deal with other people's ways of being. People with gifts often tend not to fit in, but of course, this does not stop the Taurus horse from trying. Interesting. They can be full of bluster, these people, like social bluster. The evolution of a Taurus horse is dominated by the intelligence and talent of the horse, grounded by the strength of the Taurus. Unfortunately, the result is not always as happy as it might seem. For starters, the early life of this combination is generally highly successful in some fashion. This near genius could be in the form of anything, from music to sports. Whatever it is, they have the limelight, and that gives them a taste for power. Unfortunately, people with special gifts and talents frequently do not conform, try as they may. The eventual result is often an individual who craves power over other people. So they tend to be good at cultivating some kind of skill at something, and they really want to show it to others. And even, honestly, there is a desire for these people to compete with a specific skill set or something that they identify with and really own. Whatever it is, it could be even just a knowledge of ability to read and debate. And these people will be tenacious with showing that they're possibly sharper than everybody else. They really want to try to look like the sharpest tool in the shed in a certain way. They can, all things considered. And this can be a positive thing. It's just sometimes it will come out negatively. It's often a thing that we see in astrology. Positive expressions expressing with negative connotations. Resentment and animosity can set in with these people because they feel being the conductor of the state orchestra is beneath them. They deserve the New York Philharmonic. The challenge for them is to recognize the limits of their greatness. Even though they might be excellent at something, not everybody can play at Carnegie Hall. This is just a theme that often comes into these people's lives, and they've made it as a pretty big theme in this little reading here. Now, in romance, fortunately, individuals in this combination are ever concerned about the views other people have of them. And that lends itself to a certain degree of prudence. This carries across to the approach this individual takes toward love. Surprisingly, what some may take to be an egocentric, narcissistic attention seeker turns out to be a loving romantic partner, perhaps too much so. Love is the only area of this combination's life where they are egalitarians. Egalitarian meaning like equal, trying to keep things equal. It's interesting. Ironically, their sort of populist approach to love inclines them to frequent love affairs where they dedicate their affections without reservation. I could definitely see that with the Taurus horse. You know, there might be some wild oats being sown here, especially at the start of the life. But whenever I hear a reading like that, I should always say that the strength of the Venus in the chart and the strength of the Saturn in the chart will really show if a person has the capability to stick it through in a relationship. Even if they have all these passionate romantic wanderings, the spring holding up that blooming, sensual, passionate, erotic summer flower, if these people have a strong Venus, then they will listen and empathize with the needs of their lover, whether they're a woman or a man. And if they have a strong Saturn, they will be able to carry through and endure through those moments when they have a tough time. Even Jupiter, too. Jupiter will give them a sense that there's something more that their marriage and communion can make than just pure sensuality. So other factors in the chart must be considered when you're thinking about whether the Taurus horse is necessarily a slut or not, you know? Now, in relationships, essentially off the list are Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius rats for this combination, hugely. Avoid Leo monkeys, Aquarius buffaloes and boars, and also Scorpio boars. Good romantic selections are Virgo and Capricorn tigers, and Capricorn roosters and goats. Pisces tigers make the list too. This combination would match well with a Pisces goat, but that might not be easy to achieve. That's interesting. What I will say is that the goat, the ram, the goat, they are secret best friends with the horse. So the goat and the goat ram can do well with the horse. Basically, kind of no matter what, usually. Now, with family life, this combination does not quite understand children. It's not that they are bad parents. They are not. Rather, it is the innocence and the love that they give so freely and willingly. It's a confusing sentence. Okay, so it's not that they don't understand children. And, they don't quite understand children. It's not that they're bad parents. It's that they give love so freely and willingly. In the end, a family is the best medicine for Taurus horse to escape their own egos. Taurus horses love the home. It is not only their castle, it is their fortress against a world that does not just give rewards and a refuge from those who lack an understanding of real talent. In their home, Taurus horses can be comfortable among their things. Let me say it again. In their home, Taurus horses can be comfortable among their things, their trophies from days gone by, and perhaps with a select few whom they trust. And I could definitely see that. Now, in terms of livelihood, in this combination, it is entirely possible that individuals can direct their talent to being a superior boss or excellent and much appreciated employee. As with a lot of things in life, attitude is the key. Sometimes there can be an entirely different story in the evolution of the Taurus horse. There's the possibility that they channel their gifts, whatever they may be, in such a way that an actual career comes about, perhaps a career as an art teacher or a manager of some sort. These people definitely having the sun in Taurus are going to cultivate some kind of skill, some kind of Venusian ability in the earth. They tend to be good at getting an aesthetic sense of what their desired skill or passion needs in order for them to cultivate it. You know, if they're an artist and they have a sense of just the delicateness required to put paint on a paintbrush and then to put the paint on the canvas, you know, they might have a deep sense of like reading art manuals, the right art manuals that describe how you hold the brush, and they might like look on the internet and just have a sense of how to find those manuals or instructions that will give them the most proper expression of this artistic talent that is latent in them. You know, if sun is in Taurus, they'll have like a talent for it and the desire to cultivate that talent. And so the horse will be sort of slapdash about getting their way to find it, but you know, art is good for that heart center that the horse naturally goes by as well. because art is such an internalized thing. These people the Taurus horse might be so offbeat, so driven to their own drum, that they can really get some unique and individualistic artistic expressions out. They can be great artists, these people. Also, they can just be good like biochemists, reading about a certain strand of like biological chemistry that no one has thought about, but that they, in their passionate thinking minds, pulsed forward to just finding this funny, unique expression of biological chemistry that no one would have thought about, just because they are so ready to cultivate it and to learn the rules and in and outs of whatever their field of interest might be. Now, I would like to go. My mom wanted to do something, and I should figure that out right now before we do our next reading. If you guys want to give me like 1 or 2 minutes, I'm just going to see what that was all about. I'm going to come right back down. We'll check out any questions and comments, and then we'll go to our third reading of the day. We got one more reading. It's going to flesh out everything that we've been talking about. So I'll just be right back. Okay. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I still got 2 dedicated viewers who are still hanging out with me. It's nice to see you guys. Cool. You guys are having a big old convo here. So, of course, I always like to say, anybody who wants to make a comment, feel free. Oh, cool. Groovy. I wonder which one you mean there, buddy. That black one there? What would be the keyword for snake? There's different ones, Goosey. This book in particular says that the keyword for the snake is feel. The snakes feel very, very deeply. in whatever it is that they're doing. Whether it's about their life or just in a musical moment, whatever it is, the snake keyword is feel. Yeah, Bob Ross, nice. Yeah, I feel that. I totally understand you there, Jason. I mean, the horse just loves when somebody is an open field that they can run through. When someone allows the horse to speak their truth, because the horse just loves to speak from the heart, whatever it is that they're feeling. And if the horse says, like, I've been thinking about this, and the person is right there beside them, and they're a lover, and they say, like, what do you mean by that? Like, I love the way you say that. Like, what do you know, or like that can vibe with them and be chummy with them. That's for the horse is an open field that the horse does not want to lose very deeply at a very deep level. But the horse does usually have the capacity to let go when it needs to let go. That's why I usually say the horse with these Venus-centered signs is a pretty good combination, typically. The Taurus in particular comes out a little bit rigid. Like, they can run around any obstacle as long as they themselves are locked into something familiar and deeply energizing. So if that somebody is another person, and then life throws a curveball at them and that person doesn't want to be with them anymore, it can be really tough for the Taurus horse to let go. But generally, the horse in this combination is a good release valve, as we read in our last video. It's generally always going to end up being a release valve that allows them to let go of anything which is a little too unseemly, a little too heavy, or ultimately not stable. That's the word for Taurus for sure. The Taurus here deeply wants to just let go into some solid love. Like, this person loves to love. All of the horses love to love, but the Taurus, once they find some channel for their ardent love coming through the horse here, they really like just want to like cultivate it and to just express as much as they can through it. I know I keep running around in circles with this, but I think that the horse is very sensitive to someone else's heart. The horse is sensitive to, like, even though they want this whole thing, this lover who loves them, they're also very empathic, and the horse can feel, I mean, Taurus especially too, both of these can feel if the person's heart is not in, their intention is not in this mutual project from a heart level. And if they feel that in the other lover, then, you know, this person knows instinctively that old phrase, if you love something, let it go. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back to you. And if it's not meant to be, you just got to let it go. Right? Now, this is our last reading regarding the Taurus horse. This comes from The New Astrology. It's a synthesis of the Chinese and Western systems from Suzanne White. I find she's pretty good. I should always say, I always like to say a disclaimer that there's not any science or any scripture that talks about how Chinese and Western astrology come together. It's a new cultural strand transmission bringing together that's never happened, so no one knows there's no scripture for it. Chinese astrology in its own sphere has talked about how the horse relates with the goat, which relates with the dragon, which relates with the dog, you know, between each other and what the symbols mean. The Chinese have been stewing on their own field of knowledge for like 3,000 years. So is the West in its own regard. we in the West, and from since Babylonian times and before, like 3,000 years ago, have been talking about how Leo relates with Scorpio and Scorpio relates with Virgo and the houses and all these things. It's been stewing in its own sphere for 3,000 years. It's only within the last 100 years that technology has allowed the ease of these two cultural strands to come together. So no one really knows what it's supposed to look like. And this lady doesn't know for sure either, nor do any of the readings that we've read. But the symbols do have a wisdom that stand on their own, and they do come together in a certain way. And there are points where we want to look for confluence, where this reading is similar to the readings we've already done. And for us, as new astrologers, bringing these cultural strands together, we begin to build a picture in our minds of these places of synchronous singularity and truth regarding the combination of a Chinese sign and a Western sign. There is a truth for how they express, and we've just got to go by feel and read the readings of people who have talked about them and see where they hit and are accurate. But just take everything with a grain of salt. When you read a reading like this, a lot of it, I find it's always very good. But there are times when I'm reading it and I just don't think, I don't think that's universal. I don't think every Taurus horse is going to come off that way. Maybe the Taurus horses that she knows comes off that way, but not everyone. She's generally pretty good, though, so just keep that in mind. The key word for Taurus is I have. The key word for horse is I demand. Sort of the same as the last one. The Taurus likes to have things, to own them, to possess them, or to have things to possess. And the horse is demanding and has an idea of how things ought to be. And so, the combination of this personality is one who has and demands the use of what they have, commandingly, Greedy for dominion over others. The Taurus horse wants to play the beau role in all of life's dramas. The horse is a prancer, and even when housed in the mind and body of a drudge-tolerant Taurus, that old pony will kick up his heels, show who's boss, and even occasionally throw his rider, just to keep the record straight. There is frequently much talent apparent early in the life of the Taurus horse. They may be prodigies in music or art, or even in sports or intellectual pursuits. I wouldn't be surprised if those kids who win international competitions at age 6 include many Taurus horses among them. The Taurus horse child's personality is obedient and well-behaved, diligent and ambitious in the first part of his life. Parental urging is heeded by the Taurian-born horse child. This kid practices his piano. So, encourage him, right? But somewhere in the melee of adolescence, when the first interminglings with others begins, the genius in Tauran horses becomes compromised by social life, by the demands of a quote-unquote normal existence. Not that the clever Taurus horse can ever really fit in. At some level, they cannot. They are different, separate by virtue of both their specialness and their bitterness at not being chosen for a Nobel Prize at age 13. Taurus horses find satisfaction in greatness. Otherwise, they are grumpy because nobody recognizes how brilliant they are. I mean, it's interesting to think about, It's like a blessing and a curse to be so driven to succeed. Because when you don't succeed, it's like, blah. But where some people like Sagittarius live for the up and down. It's like, if I fell down, that means, oh man, I must have been really high up on that last one. But for the Taurus, it's just like, every time they come down, it's just like, damn it, I just want to get up there. Growing up is a come down to a lot of Taurus horses. It was great when Mom and Pop applauded every breath, and your 5th grade teacher told you had natural gifts unlike any she'd ever seen. But being an adult is a terrible drag. You have to go out there and prove yourself. Fight your way among people far less talented than yourself, who, by some fluke, advance more quickly than you do. So let me give you some advice, Taurus Horse. It's true that you surely have more talent and ability than most. You are a marvelous human being. But you are socially lazy. You don't want to make that extra effort to ring up somebody who needs a smile, to go call on the sick grandmother of the guy who said he'd give you a contract. You don't want mere action. You want privileges. And I'm sorry to break this to you, Taurus Horse, but privilege evolves from the whole experience of getting to the top. If you back out before you begin, it won't happen for you for long. There will always be some less talented but more humble person who comes along and pulls the magic carpet right out from under you. This is pretty tough to hear, but I mean, I guess, that's what these books are for. Sometimes it's good to hear what you don't want to hear. Nobody can say that Taurus horses are not conscientious workers. They are always the first ones at the office and the last to go home at night. Taurus horses are materialistic and love to own beautiful things. They tend to show off their wealth and dress in rather colorful yet conservative clothes. They are far from dull. They have plenty to talk about. Taurus horses are responsible and respectable people. They grow more discreet and have better manners as they get older and move away from the childish self-image of prodigy who can do anything and get away with it because of superlative talent. Actually, the Taurus horse, with all the brilliance given him at birth, is more of an instinctive being than he is an intellectual. He can think, but would rather operate on hunches. He can reflect, but he'd rather play music or even baseball. This person needs much understanding from his entourage, patience, good humor, and an even temper. Now, Taurus horse in love. How, you may ask, can this egomaniacal demi-genius stop preening long enough to love anyone? Well, the fact is that love is the only area which the Taurus horse does not deem him or herself automatically superior. Taurus horses are excessively susceptible to love affairs. They are capable of giving up everything for the sake of gaining the affections of the person in their lives. Taurus horse people care enormously about their public image and worry about what others think of them. Therefore, discretion is an important factor in the Taurus horse's love life. They don't particularly enjoy bandying their romantic business around. He or she will hardly be the type to hold hands or kiss in public. Don't necessarily know about that. The Taurus horse needs someone in his or her life who is willing to hover in the wings while he or she performs. I don't, however, recommend anyone too long-suffering and self-sacrificial. The Taurus horse doesn't want to be fawned over. Usually, he or she has had enough of that in youth. So give your Taurus horse a challenge if this is someone who you love. Tempt him or her to come off their self-imposed pedestal. Drag your Taurus horse victim to parties and get him involved in social work. Otherwise, he or she may turn into a stay-at-home misanthrope who feels misunderstood and complains a lot. Taurus horses need to be jollied up, tickled, and taught to laugh, even at themselves. Now, compatibilities. We already did that in the last one. It's basically the same, so we'll go right into the home and family of Taurus Sun Horse. The Taurus Horse's home will be his castle. No place is better suited to his temperament, and no place on the outside makes him feel comfortable. In fact, I would venture that all Taurus-born horses are at their very best in their very own personal surroundings. As a parent, the Taurus horse may be thrown off guard by their child's innocence. This person mistrusts their fellow man quite a lot. What do these little people really want from him? Nothing? Love? Impossible. A family life of their very own is the best way for Taurus horse to take their minds off themselves. I would say that this is very much catering to like a man's consciousness. I think a Taurus horse woman would probably be much more anticipating of the nature of children, trusting of it, and sort of like very much able to deal with it as like a natural part of the Taurus's resources and a part of themselves, a part of their family, you know? So a Taurus horse lady would be much more freeing and probably even have fun with kids, I'd say. As a child, the Taurus horse will be almost too good to be true. You will be amazed at their abilities and want to send them to Hollywood or Harvard. You will find this little person's behavior exemplary, and you will love the little darling to pieces. One word of advice: take it easy on the kid. Don't push too hard, and keep the applause to a minimum, or their head will grow too big for their social life. Encourage their talents, but don't forget to prepare them for the real world. Now, in terms of profession, sometimes, of course, the Taurus horse is so gifted that they begin at an artistic or art-related career very young and stick to it. But we know that in the lives of kids who start out very early, there's many a slip twixt the high school stage and the Oscar. The wise Taurus horse goes to university or pursues some kind of practical studies that are parallel to his creative pursuit. They make a very demanding boss, and as an employee, the Taurus horse is generally much appreciated by superiors for their rigorous attention to detail and their real desire for advancement. Taurus horses can choose almost any artistic career if they take the heat that goes with it. Otherwise, there are many art-related fields such as production or communications. And why not law or advertising? All areas where one needs practicality and poise will do for the Taurus horse person. Some famous Taurus horses include Ulysses S. Grant, Mike Wallace, and Barbra Streisand. That's kind of interesting. Looks like my computer's running up storage space. That's kind of annoying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our... Go away. Sorry. This has been, Taurus Sun coming through the sign of the horse. I got the burps today, I guess. Thank you so much for watching, for anybody who is watching. I'm just going to take a quick peek at our comments here. Nice to see you, Jason. It's a real pleasure to see you. And, it's always nice to have other people. Cool, Goosey. Good night. I love you, and I'll see you. I'll have an awesome day tomorrow, too. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for coming. Yeah, folks, so yeah, today's been a late one. We got one more video to do, though. The next one is going to be the sign of Libra coming through the horse. But for anyone who is watching this, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Spirit. The next video in the series should be the Year of the Goat coming through Mercury-ruled Earth signs. So that's Virgo and Gemini Sun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next